What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was summoned by a forbidden scroll into a world of lustful women? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments, and also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. It was not a good day. Of course, in Konoha, most days were not a good day for Naruto Uzumaki. For a reason he couldn't explain, the villagers hated him with a passion. He didn't understand why. He'd never done anything to them that he knew of. Still, he struggled on, and the life that he remembered had been comfortable enough, considering his circumstances anyway, for him to get by. Despite his distinct lack of family and being ostracized by the village, Naruto had a decidedly upbeat, trusting personality, one that showed in his daily activities. So it was that when a Chuunin instructor by the name of Mizuki informed him of an alternative graduation method, because he had failed the first one, obviously, he took the chance without a second thought. The forbidden scroll was spread across the ground in front of Naruto. He'd been training himself from it for hours now, and had mastered one technique from the scroll successfully. Kage Bunshin, the shadow clone technique. Even that had constant training in those hours in order to master. It was while he was looking through the technique's description a bit more that someone else showed up. Iruka, and then, a short time after, Mizuki. Naruto was shocked by the revelation that occurred in the next few minutes, that he was in fact the container of the nine-tailed fox that so nearly destroyed Konoha years before. It explained so much. In the end, though, it would make life easier knowing. After all, he now knew he was not the one at fault. They were plain and simple, complete morons. If that was how they thought, who would want to be friends with people like them anyway? Thought like this went through Naruto's head until Mizuki attacked him, and Iruka took the blow for him. It was then that his training kicked in. Mizuki could not be allowed to get the scroll. Though he wondered why Mizuki couldn't have gotten it himself, he'd practically just waltzed in and taken it, after all. So Naruto did something he hated doing, he ran. He ran directly away from Mizuki and Iruka, toward his home. The moment he was out of sight of Mizuki, he put his rather simple plan into effect. A single clone, with a copy of the scroll, switched copies with the real Naruto, who, a fake scroll on his back, turned and charged back toward Mizuki as his clone took the real scroll to Naruto's home. Naruto stood his ground in front of Mizuki, who had begun to chase him as he ran. "Give me the scroll, brat. You hurt Iruka? That was a bad idea. It should have been you, you demon brat. Now give me the scroll, before I have to kill you and take it anyway. Try it. You try to touch me or Iruka-sensei, and I will destroy you. I'll kill both of you in one hit, demon fox." Naruto's mind was churning. Mizuki was even worse than the rest of the village. He pretended to care, and then threw him to the dogs. "You bastard," he growled, drawing a kunai from the pouch on his hip. "You bastard." His eyes were vertical slits as he placed his hands into the first seal. "I will tear you apart," and still when he finished the last. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Hundreds of Naruto clones filled the area, in trees, the ground, spreading throughout the surroundings. Mizuki seemed astounded. What is this?" Without giving the chance for a second comment, all the Narutos released their kunai toward Mizuki. He had no chance to react. 1,000 kunai filled the air and struck the Chuunin where he stood. He was unmistakably dead, with no chance of a return in a ridiculous filler arc, for example. Meanwhile, at Naruto's apartment, his clone has the scroll laid out across the floor, his eyes scanning across it, copying anything of interest from the writings and diagrams onto another smaller scroll beside it. There were only a few techniques on the scroll that Naruto felt any interest in, and one in particular caught the clone's eye. It was not so much a technique as a description of the history of one, explaining the origins of many of the summoning contracts ninjas used in their work. He copied the information as quickly as he could, and then moved on to the next technique. Back in the woods, Naruto had left Mizuki's body and returned to his sensei. Iruka frowned. "You killed him." Naruto's face was dark. "He tried to kill me. He tricked me. He used me. He deserved nothing better. I couldn't ask for a more justified first kill." Still, he trailed off, a somewhat troubled look on his face. Iruka looked at his student, a smile pulling at the corner of his lips. "Naruto," what Mizuki said. Naruto interrupted. "Don't worry, it made things better, not worse. I know the reason behind their hatred now, and I know who I am, regardless of the fox. If they can't accept me, they aren't worth my time. Iruka's face held a full smile now. Naruto, I want you to have this. He slipped his headband loose and tied it around Naruto's forehead. Congratulations on graduating. Naruto's eyes widened, with convenient timing, as he was also surprised by the sudden flow of information he got from his clone as it desummoned itself. The scroll and its copied counterpart were both hidden, separately, in his house. Sensei, before we return, the real scroll is hidden at my house. The scroll on his back disappears in a puff of smoke. We should probably go get it and return it, huh? Iruka sighed. When did you? Ah, never mind, let's get it, the village is probably in an uproar. I'll go with you and explain what happened to the others, I can walk well enough. Naruto nodded. Iruka-sensei? Iruka looked at Naruto with his eyebrow raised. Can we go get some ramen afterward? Iruka sighed. Fine. It was the next day when Naruto next looked at the copied scroll his clone had made. He'd only gotten a few things from it, and several of them he doubted he'd be able to achieve for quite some time. He read over the story of the summoning contracts, skimming over some until he found one of interest. Most summoning had one this in common, a summoning contract. From what he could see though, there were many techniques that were technically summoning that didn't require a contract. The user simply forced the summoning to occur, as was the case with the impure resurrection and probably a few of the non-sentient summons. The seal used on the summoning scroll was what was important, until a more permanent contract could be formed. So what he needed to do to improve the technique was figure out how the seals themselves worked, and he could make his own summoning contracts. Most ninja didn't have the kind of chakra to force a summoning, but with the Kyuubi sealed into him, he shouldn't have any problem. After all, the scroll had said summoning more than a few dozen shadow clones was practically unheard of. He'd summoned more than 1,000, easily. So he set to work analyzing the seals that made up a summoning scroll. It wasn't nearly as complicated as he'd expected, and ultimately, the only thing he'd need to change is the symbols representing the target. So he found what he thought he needed. A set of symbols that should let him summon a human. He could imagine the possibilities. If a ninja were able to summon other ninja at will, defense and attacks would be that much easier. Ninja could be shifted around at a moment's notice. But so far as he knew, no one had tried it before. He was wrong, no one had succeeded, but many had tried. Still, that is a story for another time. He took out a scroll and began to paint the necessary symbol across it, taking care not to leave any mistakes. As he finished up, giving the ink a chance to dry before he tested it. What he didn't realize was that of the 3 symbols around the edge of the scroll, body, mind, and spirit, only 2 were written properly. The symbol for body was missing a simple stroke, and that made it meaningless, simply a bit of extra ink on the scroll. Naruto, being a 12-year-old who had never done well in school, and was rather impatient on top of that, didn't notice his mistake. So it was that when he swiped the blood from his thumb across the seal and planted his hand in the center, things did not happen as he expected. He fed a massive amount of chakra into the seal, more or less releasing it as a flood, not bothering any attempt at control. The energy flowing through the scroll exploded outward and threw him backwards, and when he opened his eyes again, the center of the seal, when the symbol for human had been, was burned completely away. What just happened? A very good question, as is this. Where am I? Naruto frowned. You said you were in my head? What do you mean by that? Are you sharing what I see and feel? No, I'm in your mindscape. There's a lot of water. It looks like a sewer in here. There's a cage, and it would be easier for you to join me here. You should be able to enter the mindscape. My mindscape? A cage? I'll try. Naruto waited until he reached his apartment and laid on his bed. I don't know how to do this. Just concentrate. It's your mind, it should be easy to enter your own mindscape. Naruto closed his eyes. His mind was churning. It was hard to concentrate on anything, much less something he'd never done before. He didn't even know what a mindscape was, much less how to enter it. How had this happened? He was supposed to summon a person, not some insane spirit, and what was a Quincy anyway? As he thought through these things, though, he felt himself slipping into unconsciousness, and when he next opened his eyes, it was to a dark tunnel. The floor was covered with dark water, and an eerie light streamed from one end. Naruto looked around and started walking toward the light area. That's when he saw it. A silhouette at the end of the tunnel. As he got closer he could see more detail. The figure was a boy. He looked to be a few years older than Naruto himself, dressed in white, his hair long in front, framing a face that had a pair of rectangular glasses. His shirt looked similar to a doctor's coat, but simpler, and with a bluish stripe down the center where the sides met. Naruto? Uryu? I don't really know what's Ha. What kind of ninja wears an orange jumpsuit? Peepening? Wait, what? You said you were a ninja. You are wearing a bright orange outfit. That's complete foolishness. You'll stand out no matter where you fight. Naruto blinked again. I like orange. He finished stupidly. Uryu pushed his glasses up on his face a little. Obviously. Regardless, that's not what's important now. We need to figure out what is going on here. Can you tell me a little more about the summoning you mentioned? Naruto scratched his head sheepishly. I found instructions for the summoning technique in a scroll I borrowed. I was trying to modify it to summon people, but something messed up. Instead of a person on the outside, I got you, inside my mind. Can you send me back? I'd rather not spend all my time here in this place. Naruto frowned. I don't even know how you got here yet. I wouldn't know how to send you back, yet. I'll ask for help if I have to, but I'll figure something out. Uryu sighed. I see. I understand. Very well, in that case, I have another question. What is that? Uryu was pointing at the back wall of the room behind him. And don't say, a cage. Naruto walked past Uryu quickly and toward the massive bars. The lights in the room didn't extend into the cage. The bars were several inches thick, and a single paper tag in the center said, seal. Beyond the bars, he couldn't see much of anything at first. As he adjusted to the darkness, he could make out a shape curled up inside the cell. The shape of an enormous fox. Naruto whispered to no one. Kyuubi. Uryu had apparently come up behind him. Kyuubi? That's what you were talking about. What is it? Why is there a giant fox in your mindscape? Naruto scowls. He's a demon. The nine-tailed fox, strongest of the tailed beasts. He was sealed inside me when I was a baby. I just found out about it last night. Uryu sighed. A demon? And you just found out it was inside you? He didn't know of me because I didn't reveal myself. I suppose that is now a moot point. Both boys turned back to the cage to see the enormous fox was now awake, raising its head and directing its gaze toward them. The two of you are very loud. I don't suppose you would mind quieting down? Uryu raised an eyebrow. That's not very demon-like of you. I was expecting something less. He trailed off as he spotted Naruto's face. Naruto's face was contorted in what could only be described as fury. You are the reason everything is wrong in my life. You made the villagers hate me. You are the one who destroyed so much of Konoha. You damn fox, how dare you sit there so calmly? Practically my entire life is entirely your fault. No, I don't believe it is. I'm a demon, boy, but that doesn't make me evil. I'm no saint, but I don't have any responsibility for those events you mentioned. While it was my body that did it, my mind was not involved. Naruto still seemed furious. Why should I believe anything you say? I can show you, while we are in your mindscape, I can share our memories. All I need is the two of your permissions. Naruto was able to calm himself down for the most part after that. Fine, show me then. Uryu paused. You said share memories, not show us yours. Does this go both ways? The Kyuubi laughed. Very astute, young human. Correct, the sharing of memories is two-way. It is a connection between minds, not a simple information transfer. The experiences of each person fuse to a degree. It can change people, but only so much as you let it. Do you accept? Uryu glanced at Naruto, then back. I do accept, to find more about where I am. The Kyuubi smirked behind the cage bars. Well then, I'll begin. The demonic eyes inside the cage closed, and the process started with an image in the minds of the three beings. One of the attack almost 13 years before, then a flash of an orange spiral mask, and a single red eye, a flash of movement, and a man with yellow hair standing in a clearing in front of the giant fox. The details began to fill themselves in from the fox's memories. The first man, the one behind the mask, approaching the fox inside his own mindscape, the second time the man had approached him. Madara Uchiha removed his mask to reveal the Mangekyo Sharingan, and with it took control of the Kyuubi in order to get revenge on Konoha for refusing him. He forced the attack, and the fourth Hokage, knowing of this, chose to seal the Kyuubi into a child. The Kyuubi saw the child, Naruto held in the arms of a crying woman, before being taken by the yellow-haired man, Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage. The fox saw all this while trapped in his own mind, while his body tried to destroy those he saw in front of him. A silver-haired man with one eye covered and another with long white hair tried together to hold him off as the Hokage began the sealing process with the infant now lying at his feet. As the massive fox stumbled away from the powerful attacks of the ninja, he could see Minato laying a hand on the shoulder of a far older man, who both Naruto and the Kyuubi recognized as the third Hokage. He spoke something to him and then to the other two ninja in turn quickly before returning to his task. The Kyuubi's sharp eyes saw him begin, with a single tear running down his face, begin the sealing, as he placed the first half of the seal on the infant's stomach, before the death god rose behind him and pulled the fox's soul out of his body in moments. He knew no more until he awoke inside the cage in Naruto's mind some time later. He didn't understand what had occurred completely, but he knew enough to know where he was. So, he began the process of planning for himself. He started preparing his new vessel for his power. They all saw how he fed Naruto's coils with his chakra, slowly expanding them. He wouldn't allow his host to be weak, at least unless he could get out. This body would become powerful. When Naruto found out about him, he could grant him enormous power, and earn himself his freedom, even if only in part. They all saw as time passed and the Kyuubi's mindset change. He was never a perfect being, but he wasn't ever truly evil, just perhaps selfish, and of course his power had over the many years gone to his head, so to speak. Still, part of him when he was sealed hated it, hated the man who had done this to him, and hated the boy he was sealed inside. He would escape though, and that would be revenge enough, as the boy would never survive him overpowering the seal. This changed as the Kyuubi watched Naruto's life. He began to realize the boy was no more responsible for the Kyuubi's fate than he was for his own, which was proving to be a devastatingly poor one indeed. He was hated and all but exiled by his fellow villagers and even many among the shinobi populace. Naruto's own memories began to mix with the fox's and they saw more and more of his life, all the way to the previous day when Kyuubi had lent Naruto the power to defeat Mizuki and just a few minutes before when he had performed the summoning. As more and more memories entered the connected minds of the three, they understood each other better, and better understood the situation they were in. So when the stream of memories ended, the three, having viewed more than 3 decades of memories in a short moment, had no doubt of the intentions of any of the others. So you see, I may not have the purest intentions in what I am about to offer, but I do it with no intention of causing anyone harm. Except one man, the Uchiha founder who caused this. Him I intend to cause many, many kinds of harm, all of them painful and terrible. You know what I offer, I grant you power, you grant me my freedom from this prison in your mind. My body is gone, and I cannot return to even a shadow of my former self without destroying the seal and yourself. But my mind can be free, that is what I ask of you, the freedom to leave this cage and inhabit a physical body, even a limited one. That is why I pushed you, without your realizing, to learn the shadow clone technique. I can inhabit and alter the body of a clone to suit my needs. Uryu should be able to possess such a clone as well, though his alterations will be far more limited than my own without such power as I have. Naruto was hardly listening. He was looking down at the water-soaked stone floor, his reflection looking back at him. Yondaime, was he, my father? The Kyuubi went silent for a moment. I believe so, how did you know? Naruto smiled weakly. I could tell, from his face and the way he acted, and he looks so much like me. Uryu was silent. I know what went wrong. Naruto turned. What? He looked confused. I know why your summoning didn't work. You made a mistake in the seal. The symbol you used for body. When I saw it in the book in your memories, there was another line in the center. Kyuubi looked at Naruto. Yes, that would make sense. I see it now too. You summoned his mind and soul, but left the body behind. That helps, but it doesn't help send him back. I know that a typical summoning uses a chakra flow through the summoning's body to return them to their own world or previous location. I've never seen a summoning of a soul, much less a way to return that soul. Uryu interrupts. In other words, I'm stuck here until he figures out a way to return me. I understand. Fine. He turned to Naruto. Until such a time as I can return to my own world, I'll do whatever I can to help you be successful. If you die on some ridiculous mission, I'll never get back. So long as I have your word to try and help return me to my world. Naruto nodded. I feel different, like I can think more clearly now. Did something happen during the memory link? Kyuubi approached the bars, and even as he did, his body shrank to the height and rough shape of a human, though still extremely fox-like in appearance. Our memories combined, that experience has changed us. We each gained a bit of the others in our mind because of that link. Experiences and memories shape a person, so these new memories have shaped your thoughts some as they did the original owner. Naruto gave his first real smile in a long time. Well, how do we do this then? This power you said you'd grant me, and how do I release you? I am already working the changes on your body. You'll gain many of my natural traits, to a lesser extent. Your chakra will continue to grow, and your control of it should increase. You'll be faster, stronger, more agile. You'll heal faster than you did even before, and you'll be able to change your appearance. I suspect it will be minor changes, and limited to things of similar size, but I won't know for certain. I've never granted my power to a human before. As for releasing me, you should be able to change this mindscape at will. You'll see what to do in a moment. With that, the Kyuubi shifted back into its true shape, and appeared to be once again sleeping until a human shape appeared from out of its body. Naruto was shocked to see what appeared to be a female version of himself, but with real whiskers, fox ears, and a tail, approach the bars of the cage. My full power will remain sleeping inside that part of my soul. My consciousness will inhabit this form. Simply free this body from the cage and I will be able to leave. Naruto blinked. You're a girl? The female Naruto grinned. Ah, I forgot you saw only my memories from that day onward. No, I don't have a true gender. I'm a shapechanger by nature. I take whichever appearance I wish. I've learned that females tend to be more useful, in certain ways, than males, and they tend to be underestimated more easily. Naruto nodded to himself absently. He concentrated and the room about them changed. Instead of the wet, dark, dingy tunnels, they were soon standing in a replica of part of Konoha, but empty of all people. It wasn't perfect, but anyone who had been there would recognize it for what it was. The cage the Kyuubi was in was no longer a dark nook in a corner, but instead a brightly lit large dome. The bars in front of the female Kyuubi form separated and allowed her to step through, before sealing back into normal bars. Will you and Ryu be able to enter my clones once I leave my mindscape? Kyuubi answered with a nod. Your clones appeared previously in the mindscape as more exit tunnels, smaller than your own. Were I not caged, I could have entered any of them at will. Uryu nods. Then he should go. The sooner we get into the real world, the sooner we can try to figure things out. Naruto nodded, and without another moment's hesitation, walked through what was now the village gate, out of his mindscape and into the real world. Naruto sat up with a start from his bed and looked at the clock. No time had passed. The clock was on the same hour and minute as it had when he first entered his mindscape. He felt exhausted. In his mind, he had lived nearly 40 years as three individuals in the span of a few minutes, only to realize that those few minutes was actually only a single second. His body was fine, but mentally, Naruto felt tired. Rubbing his temples with one hand stretched across his forehead, he stood slowly up. After a moment, he put his hands into a seal, and two shadow clones appeared beside him. Naruto blinked as he realized he hadn't spoken the technique name out loud. He was distracted from his thinking, though, when the first shadow clone changed its appearance, becoming an exact duplicate of Uryu in a few seconds. The second clone changed a few seconds later, the same appearance as Kyuubi had taken inside his mind. Naruto frowned. If you go out looking like that, the villagers will probably riot. Kyuubi looked down. Indeed, I suppose they would. One moment then. A moment later, the girl's hair changed, from two ponytails of blonde hair into reddish hair, and it became even longer. The ears, whiskers, and the marks that Naruto himself had, and tail disappeared, and the orange jumpsuit became a black outfit with reddish-orange accents, similar to the jumpsuit, but tighter fitting. Her eyes remained the same blue they were before. Better? Naruto nodded. Much. I have to go to the graduation ceremony and find out my team. You two can come, but you'll need to wait outside or go back into my mindscape. I don't want everyone knowing about you, and they'll ask questions if you come in with me. The other two nod, with Uryu then pushing his glasses up on his face again. It is a short time later that the shadow clones are dispelled and Naruto was sitting in a seat among numerous other new graduates. One of them decided he had a point to prove by humiliating Naruto. "Hey, Naruto, what are you doing here? Only those who passed are supposed to be here." Naruto gave the boy a look and pointed at the forehead protector on his head. The cloth was a little stained with blood from the previous night, but the metal shone bright and clean. "Idiot, don't you see this?" The boy seemed surprised, and raised an eyebrow. He walked away, shaking his head. "Can I eat him?" Naruto blinked. "What? No. Fine, I haven't gotten to fight anyone in over a decade. You'll have to let me out soon." "I will, later." Naruto. The aforementioned boy looked up to see a pink-haired kunoichi standing in front of him with her hands on her hips. "Sakura ch," he started, before she interrupted. "Move your ass out of the way, I want to sit on the other side of you." "What?" He looked to the side and saw a dark-haired boy sitting there. "Uchiha Sasuke, the most popular boy in our class, for the life of me I don't see why." After a few moments of squealing fangirlishness, Sakura sat down next to the brooding emo boy about the time Iruka entered the room. "No, not happening, those of you who would care know what I mean, not happening." "You heard me." Iruka turned to the group and began to speak. "Alright, settle down, I'll assign you all teams, and you'll be assigned a room to go meet with your Chuunin sensei. So now, all of you are real shinobi now, and..." So it was that Naruto found himself sitting across an otherwise empty room from Uchiha Sasuke and his obsessed fangirl Haruno Sakura. Kami must hate me. Yes, I could understand how those two wouldn't be your top choice for teammates. It was at this point, already 3 hours later than they had been sent into the room to wait, that the door opened, and Naruto saw the face of his Chuunin sensei for the first time. It was at this point, already 3 hours later than they had been sent into the room to wait, that the door opened, and Naruto saw the face of his Chuunin sensei for the first time. The silver-haired Chuunin scratched his forehead quizzically. "Nani? You were there. You're the one who was with the fourth." The Chuunin's eye widened for a moment, and the two other genin looked at each other. "What's with the outburst, Dobi?" The black-haired Uchiha Teme said, his chin resting on his hands. Naruto scowled. "Never mind, Teme, you wouldn't care anyway." The silver-haired Chuunin coughed once. The group's attention shifted. My first impression is, I don't like you guys." He paused. "Follow me." He led them to a spot on top of a nearby building. "Alright, let's start with introductions. Your likes, dislikes, dreams for the future, hobbies, stuff like that." Naruto pointed at their new sensei. "Shouldn't you go first, sensei?" "Oh, me? My name is Hitaki Kakashi, and I have no desire to tell you my likes or dislikes." "Dreams for the future? Well, I have lots of hobbies, anyway, your turn, on the right." He pointed at Naruto. "I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen and people who like me for who I am. I dislike shallow people who judge others without really knowing anything about them. My dream is to prove myself to this village and become the greatest Hokage. My hobbies are pranks and jokes, mostly. I see." Next, he motioned to Sasuke, whose lower face was covered by his intertwined fingers. "My name is Uchiha Sasuke. There are many things I dislike, and I don't really like anything. My ambition, I don't want to use the word dream, is to kill a certain man, and to revive my clan. Okay, lastly, you." He nodded toward the pink-haired waste of space, kunoichi. "I'm Haruno Sakura. The thing I like is, chicken-haired emos. Well, the person that I like is, the chicken-haired emo Teme. Should I say my dream for the future, is to have the chicken-haired emo Teme's babies. The thing I dislike is Naruto. My hobby is, stalking the chicken-hair emo Teme, of course." Kakashi cocked his head to the side and gave them a bored look. "Well, that's enough for now. We'll start our duties tomorrow. We'll be doing survival training." The following burst of complaints only got worse when Kakashi revealed the average passing rate for the training exam to be less than 33%. "Meet me on the training field tomorrow morning. I'd skip breakfast, you'll throw up." A short while later they disappeared in various directions to prepare for the next day. Naruto was the first to arrive, and when he did, it was not in his usual attire. His outfit had changed to match more closely to that of the clothes Kyuubi had worn in its second form, though not as tight-fitting. Uryu and Kyuubi had both insisted his outfit needed redoing, and after a short argument, he agreed. His jumpsuit was now not so baggy, and the main color of it was black, with some dark orange accents. His shinobi headband appeared to have been painted a dull black, and he wore a belt with a matching, but smaller, metal plate for the buckle. He had black fingerless gloves, and a small satchel strapped to his hip for his weapons and supplies. Sakura arrived next, about 15 minutes early, 10 minutes after Naruto. She saw him lying against a tree, his face covered by a book. "Who are you? We were supposed to meet Kakashi-sensei here, I thought." As she looked at the blonde a bit more, even with the drastic change, she realized her mistake. "Naruto? Last I checked that was still my name." Sakura frowned. "Why do you look so different?" Naruto pulled the book from his face and raised an eyebrow. "I changed clothes. That's what happens when you change outfits, you look different. Besides, I would think you'd be happy. All of you teased me for years about that orange monstrosity." Sakura looked shocked. I don't." A moment later her expression changed to a scowl. "Naruto baka, you're just trying to impress me again. I'm not interested. You'll never be as cool as Sasuke-kun, no matter what you wear." Naruto snorted. "Right, because I really need to prove myself against the Great Emo Avenger. He makes the cow on my milk carton look cool, Sakura-san." "Naruto baka," Sakura screamed, swinging a punch at his face. It never landed. Naruto's hand intercepted and stopped it inches from his face. "Don't try to hit me again, Sakura-san. I may not like the emo teme, but that doesn't mean I want to hurt you as well." Sakura gaped at Naruto, her mouth opening and closing in a way that could remind him of nothing so much as a fish. Possibly a retarded fish? "Your hero is here." Naruto pointed at the approaching Uchiha heir, his hands in his pockets as he approached the training ground. He didn't say a word regarding Naruto and Sakura with only a short glance before leaning against a tree some distance away. "Sasuke-kun, Naruto baka was telling lies about you, but I told him to stop." Sasuke shot her a look. "You're annoying. Leave me alone. See why I don't like him, Sakura-san? He's not even kind to his adoring fans. I swear, I just don't see what you girls see in this teme. You've turned your attitude toward her around quick, haven't you? She could still make a good kunoichi if she'd just listened to reason." Right, it was a miracle the three made it through the next hour in one piece, really. At least, that all of them did. Kakashi showed his face more than an hour late, to find two of his students tied to trees near the training field, and Naruto lounging against another tree between the two. Kakashi shot him a glare. "They came after me, sensei. I could have killed them. I didn't. They should consider themselves lucky. I only instigated a little, after all. Untie them, now." As Naruto did, he hit a button on a timer he brought with him and held up two bells. "The timer is set for noon. You have to get the bells from me by then. Whoever doesn't get a bell fails this test, and I will tie you to the poles over there while I and the others eat. Then you will be sent back to the academy. Oh, and you'll need to come at me with intent to kill. Don't go easy." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "I'm definitely getting one of those bells. You may not have to." What do you mean?" he said. "No, Uryu is right. When is the last time you saw a two-man genin team?" Naruto's eyes widened. Oh, it's a teamwork test. Of course." Naruto smirked. "Still, Kakashi doesn't realize what he's getting into. I'm certain I'm not ready to beat him, but I'll give him more of a challenge than he ever bargained for." Naruto turned to his teammates as Kakashi disappeared from their view. "It'll take all three of us to get the bells from him. We'll have to work together. You'll just slow me down, Dobi. Don't get in my way." With that, Sasuke drew a kunai and rushed into the woods after Kakashi. Sakura looked at Sasuke, then back at Naruto, before turning and following Sasuke into the trees. "Sasuke-kun." Naruto slapped a hand against his forehead. "Idiots, both of them, and Sakura was supposedly the smartest in our class. I guess she's probably telling herself that he has a plan, as if a genin could take on a Chuunin like Kakashi alone. Now what am I going to do? You tried playing your cards close to your chest, maybe you should reveal them. Not everything of course, but enough. You can't force them to cooperate, so maybe you can prove yourself and get them to fall into line." Naruto nodded and ran after the Uchiha. He arrived just in time to see his attempt at defeating Kakashi. Kakashi was standing openly in the center of a clearing when Sasuke leapt out at him. Kakashi had his back turned, but he easily grabbed Sasuke's wrist with one hand as the kunai approached, twisted him around, and threw him into the woods. Naruto leapt out at Kakashi with a kunai in his hand. I'll see how hard he's willing to try first. He feinted a slash and then spun around for a kick. Kakashi easily caught his leg, and before he knew it he was laying face first on the ground. He scowled. I know what this is really about, sensei, he said even as he stood and launched another slash with a kunai. It was blocked by Kakashi's free hand, which had somewhere along the way pulled a kunai from his own pouch. Do you, now? The Chuunin responded, giving the unusual smile he often did, even with only one eye visible. Naruto smirked and slashed at the bells. Kakashi sidestepped. You want us to fight each other, or I suppose I should say that's the point of the test. It's a test of teamwork. We should be able to cooperate to try and get the bells, even though by your rules, only 2 of us could pass. Quote. Kakashi paused. It didn't change the fact that he easily avoided Naruto's next blow, aimed at his stomach. Naruto continued. Well, the Uchiha Teme wanted none of it, and Haruno-san chose to follow him. That's when that same Uchiha showed himself again, delivering a kick to Kakashi's face. An instant before a puff of smoke revealed a log there. Dobi, I told you to stay out of my way. Naruto scowled. I told you, you can't fight him alone, nor can I. We need to work together. All of us. He shot a look at Sakura, who was standing off to the side, watching. Speak for yourself, Dobi. I'm better than you'll ever be. I'll get the bells myself. Kakashi was leaning against a tree nearby, still reading his book with one hand, the other twirling a kunai. Sasuke charged at him. Naruto followed. Sasuke sent a massive fireball at the Chuunin, and it almost seemed he was successful at first. Until he heard the bells behind him, and Kakashi's kick sent him flying into a tree. Naruto was there when he came to a stop, offering a hand to help him up. Convinced yet? Sasuke knocked Naruto's hand away and scowled. Damn it, Dobi. I don't need any help from a loser like you. I'm an Uchiha. I'll get the bells on my own. Naruto was getting angry by now. What exactly makes you think that matters, you idiot? You think Kakashi will just give you the bells because of who your family was? Or do you think he'll feel sorry for you and give you a passing grade because of the tragedy you went through? Sasuke and Naruto were no longer concentrating on Kakashi at all by this time. The aforementioned Chuunin was watching their argument from a short distance away. Sasuke scowled. Go away, Dobi. You have no idea what you're talking about. Naruto was furious. I don't know what I'm talking about. Teme, I never knew my parents, and I was hated for what I went through. You get everything on a silver platter. You've had praise thrown at your feet your entire life, without earning any of it, while I was tormented and hated for something I had no fault in. You get everything you could ask for because you had a famous family. You think your family was so great? My father was a better man than you or anyone in your clan ever was or ever would be. Naruto, what are you doing? You can't tell the Uchiha brat. The third would have kept that secret for a reason. Kakashi was there to catch the kunai strike Sasuke aimed at Naruto, and had him restrained in seconds. Let go of me, Hitaki. I'll kill the Dobi. I'll kill him just like I will my brother. Let go of me, damn it. Sakura had walked closer. She was biting her lip, and looked back and forth between the 2 boys on her team. Her eyes finally settled on Naruto. Naruto, your father? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who my family was, that's my point. If you can't accept me for who I am, not preconceptions, then I don't want anything to do with you. Now, unless you're going to take the same path as the Uchiha Teme, we still have those bells to get. Naruto looked at Kakashi and then turned around and began to walk into the woods. I have a plan, come with me if you want to pass this. Naruto. Naruto turned and saw Kakashi had somehow knocked Sasuke out completely, and the boy was tied up carefully. You were right about the test, but I've seen enough from Sasuke, so I'm changing the rules. You and Haruno have until noon to manage to get both bells from me. If you do, you both pass, if not, I send all 3 of you to the academy. And Naruto, don't say anything else about the past for now, we'll talk after the test is over, whichever way it turns out. I'm going to put Sasuke somewhere, out of the way, and then we'll continue. With that, Kakashi disappeared, along with the tied-up Uchiha. Naruto turned to Sakura. Well? Sakura seemed to be in shock. Sasuke had attacked a teammate and failed the test. She hadn't said a word since Naruto had made his speech about acceptance, but now she was starting to come out of her inner turmoil. I'll help. What do you need me to do? Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. So she's not a total lost cause then. Good. I need distraction. You and one of my clones will draw him in. Keep his attention on you until I attack. I can handle the rest. If this doesn't work, we'll have to think of something else. Uryu, Kyuubi, I'll need both of your help for this. Here's the plan. Kakashi returned to see Sakura and Naruto arguing in the clearing. Sakura, I told you, we had to work together on this. He's too strong for me. I don't care, Naruto baka. I'm not helping anyone who would insult my Sasuke-kun. I'll talk to the Hokage. Sensei is obviously wrong to fail him. You were trying to get him to fight. Sakura-san, I was trying to get him to work with me. Kakashi sighed. He supposed this would be another year with no team. A pity, the boy had showed promise. That's when he heard it. I'm gonna get those bells, sensei. A second before Naruto's fist smashed into the tree behind where he had been. A clone? He glanced at the Naruto in the clearing. If it is, it's a good one. A shadow clone perhaps? He landed between the two Narutos, some distance from the first he'd seen. The Naruto who had just attacked was shouting at him. I can't believe you almost fell for that, sensei. I noticed you stopped reading your book. Too hard to keep up with it? His hands closed into a seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 clones appeared in front of Naruto and all ran at their sensei. 3 quick blows and all 3 disappeared in a puff of smoke. I put it away when you were fighting Sasuke. I'll catch up on it later. Naruto smirked. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 new clones appeared. Again, 3 more blows from Kakashi made them disappear. You can't think this will help. You are just wasting chakra. Naruto smiled. Oh, I know, but I'm not the only one on this team. Kakashi shrugged as he casually sidestepped a kunai thrown by Sakura from behind. True. You aren't. Kakashi turned as he stepped backward, so both his students were now near the edge of his vision. Sakura waved at him. The clone was gone. You underestimate us, sensei. Kakashi looked behind him and saw a Naruto clone about 20 yards back, holding what appeared to be a bow made of chakra. No, that's not chakra, that's pure spiritual energy, which explains why I didn't notice it at first. I didn't think Naruto was capable of focusing his spirit energy so well. The clone put his free hand against the bow and drew back, a blue arrow forming behind his hand as he did. And a second later he fired it. Kakashi dodged easily, and it went just under him as he jumped. As he landed, he saw something running, a streak of red, across the ground where he had been standing. He scratched his forehead, until he heard the ringing bells, as what appeared to be a fox crawled up Naruto's, the real Naruto, leg and back and dropped them into his hand. The fox jumped to the ground before shifting into another Naruto clone, which grinned before both clones disappeared. Well, sensei, what do you think? Kakashi blinked and looked down at his belt. The arrow had cut the strings of the bells cleanly. Either Naruto was far smarter than he had ever let on, or he was seriously slipping. I think I'm starting to like you kids. Naruto grinned. Congratulations, you both pass. I'll talk with the Hokage about replacing Sasuke, probably with one of the better members from a failing team. Naruto, you come with me, we need to talk. Naruto nodded and the two left to find the Hokage. So the Uchiha boy not only refused to work with Naruto or even to work together with Sakura, but actually attacked him when he tried to get through to him. Quite frankly, he seems unstable, and is not fit to be a shinobi. Naruto and Sakura on the other hand, once the original arguing ended, they worked well together, and Naruto was the first genin who has ever successfully retrieved the bells from me. The third Hokage nodded to Kakashi. And why did you feel the need to bring Naruto in with you? You didn't bring the Haruno girl. Naruto spoke up before Kakashi could explain. I can answer that. You see, I think, I know about everything now, meaning, who my father was. I saw everything that happened that night when I was sealed. Including some things I don't believe even you know about. The Hokage's eyes widened. And how did you come by this knowledge? Naruto sighed. This will be the easiest way, I think. One moment, he formed a seal, and a single shadow clone appeared. This time changing shape a moment later into the same red-haired girl it had taken the form of after Kyuubi left Naruto's mind the first time, but this time, complete with whiskers, fox ears, and a single tail emerging from her backside. She gave a mischievous grin, and Naruto introduced them. Say hello to the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Quite a bit of explanation later, intentionally excluding the part about Uryu and his summoning technique, Naruto had managed to bring the Hokage and Kakashi up to speed. The aged leader sighed. I knew years ago that the Kyuubi may have been controlled, but I never knew by whom, but I don't see how Madara could possibly be alive. His expression changed to one of determination. I'll see what I can discover about this. For now, I need to apologize, Naruto, for the secrets I've kept from you. I assure you everything was done with the best intentions. The fourth had many powerful enemies, and not all of them died during the last war. He frowned. That said, I will of course rescind my laws regarding these secrets when it comes to you. They are now your secret to keep, and anyone you care to know, about your father or the Kyuubi, I will certainly understand. So, on to the matter of your team. If, as you said, the clone body the Kyuubi inhabits is capable of retaining its body until its true death, it seems to be a distinct possibility that the Kyuubi itself could become the last member of your team, in human form of course. You will need to choose a human name. I will add you to our records as Naruto's cousin, and the owner of a powerful bloodline. That will keep others off your backs about any unusual abilities. Naruto nodded. I intend to tell Sakura eventually. For now I'll tell her what everyone else will hear. And sir? The Hokage raised an eyebrow. Thanks. I understand the secrecy. I do, just, thanks for watching out for me all these years. The Hokage smiled. Sarutobi. He glanced at the Kyuubi. I would like my human name to be Kataki Miteki. The enemy of my enemy, Naruto smirked. Is my friend. The newly named Kataki smirked. Indeed, as to the bloodline? My shape-shifting ability and advanced healing need explaining, nothing else should be a problem. The Hokage nods. Very well, I wish you all luck then. Kakashi, I trust you have no problems with this. Kakashi shook his head. Minato would return from the grave to haunt me if I mistreated his son. Part of that includes accepting the Kyuubi, as they appear to be very close now. I will lead them, and the Haruno. Indeed I believe he would. For your information, 2 other Genin teams passed their tests. You'll see them around. Kurenai's Team 8 consists of Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba, and Aburame Shino. Asuma's Team 10 includes the next generation of the Ino Shika Cho trio, Yamanaka Ino, Narashikamaru, and Akamichi Choji. Kakashi nodded his assent, and he and his 2 new students left the tower to return to their homes, or more accurately in Naruto and Kataki's case, Ichiraku Ramen. There's the 3rd chapter, and we'll finally be getting into the real story soon. Make sure you all read and review. I want your feedback. Naruto will be meeting quite a few new people in the coming chapters, and will become strong, but not godlike. Before anyone complains about beating Kakashi, it was a combination of good planning, teamwork, acting, and Kakashi underestimating him. He isn't stronger than Kakashi in a real fight yet, not even close. Kataki-san, I know it's annoying, but please don't kill the cat. Sakura requested as she saw the previously mentioned girl stand up, scratches across her face and arms. It's lucky I heal quickly. Otherwise I would, and damn the mission. Kataki practically growled, and the tired cat was snatched up by Naruto, who held it against the thick material of his jumpsuit, knowing its claws wouldn't easily pierce it. Couldn't you simply shift the scratches away, Kataki-chan? Kataki blinked. I've never tried it. The unspoken message left off the end was, in this body, but Naruto understood that. They had shared the same experiences for 13 years after all. After a second, the scratches simply faded away. It works, but it takes far more energy than it would to let them heal on their own, though it's good to know. Naruto shook his head. How did you not think of that before? In my natural body, healing myself was never an issue. Superficial wounds I didn't concern myself with, and even major wounds healed extremely fast. Besides which, it was already fairly rare for me to get significant injuries to begin with. I suppose that makes sense. Now, let's go get rid of this cat. Wish it would stop running away. Can you really blame it? I certainly can't fault anyone for trying to get away from that woman. The woman in question was the Fire Lord's wife, and the cat was named Tora. Virtually every Genin team in almost a decade had had to catch the cat at least a few times. It was jokingly called a rite of passage amongst the older teams and ninja who had moved up to bigger and better missions. That no one had murdered the cat yet, or even let it escape to be kind, was a miracle in and of itself. Still, they once again returned the cat to its gleeful owner, though once they left the scene changed. If I have to catch that cat again, with all due respect, sir, it dies. Kataki's eye was twitching slightly as she said this. You're rather easily upset when it comes to that cat, aren't you? I hate cats, they are pathetic excuses for hunters. The big ones aren't so bad, but I detest these pathetic house cats. Naruto sighed. Sir, I think she's right. I'm quite frankly sick of these D-rank chores we've been doing. We could easily handle a C-rank mission. We've done plenty of D-rank already, and I'm sure there are missions waiting for a free team. The Hokage raised an eyebrow and shot Kakashi a look. The silver-haired teacher rubbed the back of his neck. They are ready for a better mission if there is one available. This time he shot Naruto a look. But we will do whatever mission you assign. His lone visible eye made it clear this was not to be argued any further. The Hokage chuckled. Okay. All three genin blinked. Really? Sakura was the first to respond. If you want a C-rank mission that badly, I'll give you one. I have here a protection mission of a certain individual. Naruto smirked. Finally. Who are we protecting, Hokage-sama? I'm about to introduce you, Tazuna, please come in. An older, obviously drunken man with a pack worn on his upper back entered the room. What's this? These are just a bunch of super brats. Especially the short one with the stupid face. Are you really ninja? Naruto smirked. Care for a demonstration? Less than a second later, three of each of both him and Kyuubi were standing around the old man, kunai at several different vital points. They quickly stored the weapons away and stepped back. Kakashi shook his head at the rather terrified look on the man's face. I assure you we are more than qualified. Tazuna glanced at the blonde and the redhead before continuing. Yes. Well, I am the super expert bridge builder Tazuna. I expect you to provide me super protection until I get back to my country and complete the bridge. Naruto and Kataki both smirked. I'm sure we can handle that, they said, practically in unison. The group met at the gate early the next morning. Unexpectedly, Kakashi was only a few minutes late, perhaps because it was a real mission. Naruto was excited, though he barely showed it. What are you so worked up about? This is the first time I've ever been outside the village, much less on a mission. I've never seen the rest of the Land of Fire, much less any other countries. Naruto's discussion was interrupted by Kakashi. Alright. Let's go, there shouldn't be any real trouble on this mission, but be on your guard just in case. The group started their walk in silence. Tazuna-san, you're from the Wave Country, right? Sakura started. What about it? She paused. Kakashi-sensei. Do they have ninja in that country? No, not in Wave Country, most other countries do have them. But there is no hidden village in the Wave. Don't worry though, there won't be any ninja fighting on a C-rank mission. So we won't see any foreign shinobi? Of course not, we're just here too. Kakashi stopped as a blur went by him, and before anyone knew what was happening, he was wrapped up by a length of chain. The three genin just barely caught sight of the two ninja holding the chain before they pulled hard, and the chain sliced Kakashi apart. One down. The ninja appeared behind Naruto, one on either side. Two down. One said as they began to wrap the chain around him. Naruto jumped straight up as the ninja ran past, and a second later Kataki planted a foot onto each of the two's gauntleted hands, knocking them to the ground. Meanwhile, Naruto moved and caught the chain on a kunai, pulling hard and stabbing two kunai hard into a tree, pinning the chain between them. As he launched himself off the tree, back toward the two enemies, he vaguely noticed Sakura had moved between the two enemies and Tazuna. Good, if she's protecting him, we can worry about fighting. The now pinned ninja did something with their gauntlets, and the chain snapped free. Naruto scowled. In less than a second, they were back up, and one sent a blow toward Kataki. Kataki caught the blow with both hands, but the sharpened glove cut deep into her skin, and she was knocked back. The other ninja was halfway to Tazuna before Naruto could even think about reaching him, so he dove toward the closer of the two, his hands forming a seal as he ran. Three shadow clones appeared and two quickly launched themselves at the shinobi, who easily planted a shuriken in each of their chests. The other one nodded to Naruto and drew his arm back, forming the same bow and arrow as he had in the bell test. He aimed it at the shinobi and released. As the enemy shinobi moved in close to Tazuna, Sakura was there to meet the strike. She brought her foot up quickly and kicked sideways, striking the shinobi across the face. He skidded across the ground and then spun around, laughing. So, you've got some skill after all, hey Gi. He cut off suddenly as his mouth opened, and Kakashi was standing behind him as he fell forward, a kunai buried deep into his spine. The Ryotsu arrow struck the demon brother almost dead center in the chest, piercing him straight through. He didn't speak a word as he fell dead to the ground with a 6-inch hole in his chest. Naruto looked over and saw that the second brother was dead, and Kakashi was standing by his body. He's alive. He must have used a kawarimi. Kakashi had another kunai in his hand. Nice work, all three of you. Tazuna-san, are you okay? The old man nodded, glancing around frantically. Good, so you can explain to me why these two were after you. Tazuna stuttered. I don't know what you mean. That's why I stayed back instead of finishing them immediately. I wanted to see their target. Once they thought they had disabled us, they went straight for you. There was no finishing blow to Kataki, nor did they bother trying to get Naruto after their first attack. You were the target. Naruto and his clone, controlled by Uryu, had helped Kataki up by this point, and helped her over next to Kakashi and the others. Are you okay? The gloves were poisoned, but I'll be okay. My healing factor has already begun to destroy the toxin. I'll need to rest soon, but I should be back on my feet by morning. Sensei. The glove they got me with, it was poisoned. My bloodline will flush the toxins from my system, but I'll need to rest. Kakashi frowned. Very well, we'll make camp. Then Tazuna can explain why he is being targeted by shinobi. This mission is now at least B rank. If there are more ninja after you, this may be too much for my team. Tazuna looked down. You're right. It turns out a super dangerous man is after my life, the wealthy shipping magnate, a man named Gato. He runs a large shipping company, but secretly, he sells illegal items, using thugs and hired ninja to take over businesses and countries. Kakashi's eye widened. Gato, he's one of the world's wealthiest people. He took control of the Wave Country a few years ago. He has a shipping monopoly on the island, which is why I have to finish this bridge. But why did you hide this when you hired us, if you knew ninja were after you? My country is super poor. Even the feudal lord doesn't have much money, we could never afford a B-rank mission. He scratched the back of his head. But don't worry about me. If you leave, we'll do it. Kakashi and Tazuna both turned to see Naruto standing up, a determined look on his face. We can't turn back now. We're ready for this, Kakashi. If we leave, he will die, and his country will have no way to stop Gato. We have to continue. Kakashi sighed. Sakura bit her lip. Naruto, are you sure? Those guys were pretty strong, and the next ninja could be even stronger. We're ready, this is what we trained for, Sakura. Kataki was lying against a tree trunk. We practiced together for a reason. Me and Naruto have trained together in every free moment. You've been sparring against us and Kakashi every day since we became a team. Kakashi sighed. Fine then, we'll continue the mission at least until you get back to your country. Speaking of training, Naruto, did you manage to perfect that bow technique? Not quite, Uryu can use it through my body, but I haven't been able to do it myself yet. I don't have enough spirit energy yet, and I'm having too much trouble focusing my chakra enough to solidify it. Did you bring the scrolls at least? We can work on the summoning and try to find a way to send Uryu back when we are done. I think first we need to test what caused this. If this was simply a fluke, we may never figure out how to undo it without finding out exactly how it was done. The last attempt to reproduce it didn't work. We'll get it eventually, now it's time to rest. There it is, the Wave Country, and my bridge. Tazuna smirked as he pointed out the huge bridge from the tiny boat they found themselves rowing in on. As they stepped off the boat onto shore, everyone in the group was on their guard. At least, they were at first. A few short moments after they reached the shoreline, they went from simply, on their guard, to well beyond it. Down, Kakashi shouted, and Naruto actually tackled Tazuna to the ground as a massive spinning blur passed directly over their heads just after everyone hit the ground. When the blur stopped, it was revealed to be a massive Zanbatsu, now buried a couple feet into a large tree. An instant after it stopped there, its owner was standing on top of it. He was a tall man, his face covered partially, similarly to Kakashi's, with a white bandage wrap. He wore no shirt and a pair of striped pants, with both his arms and ankles covered with camouflage-patterned arm and leg warmers. Kakashi looked directly at the man. Well, if it isn't the Hidden Mist's missing ninja, Momochi Zabuza. The man chuckled, and Naruto and Kataki both started to move toward him, but Kakashi stopped them both with a hand. No, this guy's on a whole different level. Kakashi put a hand to his forehead protector. Against him, Even I'll have trouble, unless I use this. He began to lift the forehead protector away from his eye. You three, protect Tazuna, don't enter the fight. That's when he lifted the headband the rest of the way. Sakura gasped and Kyuubi tensed up. Naruto, who wasn't at the right angle, was puzzled. What is it? I won't lie boy, a decade ago I would have killed him where he stood for showing that eye in front of me. Naruto didn't quite have time to respond before Zabuza spoke. Hee, Kona has copy nin, so I get to see the famous Sharingan already? I'm honored. A Sharingan? But I don't know how he got it, but that is a Sharingan. It's not the same as the one Madara used against me though, I'll explain some other time. Kakashi was looking Zabuza directly in the eye, but the Mist Ninja hadn't moved an inch since he'd stopped there. When I was a member of the Hidden Mists assassination team, I kept a handbook, and this is what it said. The man who has copied over 1,000 jutsu, copy Ninja Kakashi. Now, let's end this talking, I have to kill that old man. Zabuza crouched down on the sword and grabbed the handle of it. But Kakashi, it seems I have to beat you first. Naruto, Sakura, and Kataki moved to surround Tazuna, just as Zabuza launched himself away from the tree, ripping the sword out of the wood. He next appeared standing on the surface of the water behind them. Ninpo, Hidden Mist no Jutsu. Zabuza disappeared entirely from view. Be careful, he is an expert in silent killing, you don't even know he was there until you are dead. The mist around them began to thicken, and they heard Zabuza's voice echo from within it. 8 choices: liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, neck vein, brain, kidneys, heart. Which should I go after? Suddenly he was there among the genin, face to face with Tazuna. It's over. That's when 2 snap kicks caught the underside of his jaw, and he flipped backward, landing near Kakashi, who just managed to hit him with a kunai in the stomach, before he dissolved into the mist. Impressive, you brats knew where I'd be, it won't be enough. And then he came out of nowhere, swinging his massive sword directly at Kakashi. It hit, and then Kakashi as well exploded into a mist of water. When the genin next caught sight of him, he held a kunai to Zabuza's neck. Don't move, it's over. Zabuza laughed openly. I'm not that easy to beat. Zabuza continued to laugh, until an exact duplicate appeared behind Kakashi and swung his blade. As Kakashi ducked and the water clone dissipated, Naruto was making plans. Kyuubi, Uryu. If this starts to go badly, I may have to reveal the truth to Kakashi and Sakura. If you need me to, I'll fight the best I can. And you have yet to tap into my real power, either for me or for yourself. Then Kakashi got caught by one of Zabuza's techniques. Naruto scowled when he saw Kakashi trapped inside a giant ball of water. Well, Kakashi, time for me to finish your little brats, water clone no jutsu. As a clone appeared in front of Zabuza, Kakashi's eyes widened. All of you, run. You can't possibly beat him, the clone can't get too far from him. Take Tazuna and get away. Naruto scowled. Kakashi, wasn't it you who always says, those who break the rules of the ninja world are called trash, but those who abandon their teammates are worse than trash. Naruto, you can't hope to fight him. Run. Afraid it's too late for that, brat. Zabuza was there, right next to him, or at least his clone was, and delivered a spinning kick to his stomach that sent him skidding across the water. Sakura grabbed Tazuna by the arm and virtually dragged him away from the fight, running frantically to bring him to safety. The clone appeared beside her, but his blow was stopped by Kataki, who was thrown across the water the opposite direction from Naruto. The water clone was in front of Naruto before he stopped moving, demonstrating the huge speed difference between them. He delivered a powerful upward kick into Naruto's stomach. Kataki was there in front of him when the kick finished, but Zabuza swung his blade and easily cleaved Kataki in two. The genin girl disappeared in a puff of smoke, but Zabuza ignored it, and before Naruto hit the water again, his clone was back beside Sakura and had knocked her to the ground, along with Tazuna. Don't get back up, girl, and you may live through this. Zabuza. Naruto's yell echoed across most of the island, and both copies of Zabuza turned to look at him. Naruto was obviously furious. He was standing on the water's surface, some 40 yards away from the real Zabuza, but for a ninja that distance wasn't far. His hands formed a seal, and a moment later, he spoke, simply for the effect. Taju, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Zabuza felt a chill up his spine, and a moment later, easily 8,000 clones filled the area between him and Naruto. What is this kid? Naruto scowled, and the two clones nearest to him shifted into the forms of Uryu and Kakashi. He didn't waste time with words, and every last one of his shadow clones ran toward Zabuza. The demon of the mist was forced to pull back his clone, which leapt between him and the onrushing horde, easily destroying the first wave with a single massive swipe of his sword. The next wave got close, but Zabuza moved so fast that the single blow it took to destroy them was still faster than they could fill in the gaps. Naruto, give me more of my power. I will destroy this man. Do it. The next thing anyone knew, the clones were gone, except the ones containing Uryu and Kakashi. All three of them began to change. The ears, whiskers, and tail that were normal for Kakashi's undisguised form appeared on all three, and a moment later they changed further, as a second tail appeared beside the first. Zabuza, you won't touch Tazuna-san. Because I am going to kill you here. Naruto and Kakashi moved quickly towards Zabuza, and were intercepted by his clone. No you don't, kid. The clone caught both of their first blows on the flat of his sword. At your best you still can't even beat my clone at its worst. We don't need to. Uryu spoke, and Zabuza looked at him for the first time, seeing the spirit bow he held for the first time as he drew back his hand and aimed at the clone, forming the largest arrow Naruto had ever seen his make. Who's this kid? Zabuza scowled. His clone moved to take Uryu down but found Naruto and Kakashi blocking his path. Naruto aimed high and Kakashi aimed low, and Kakashi's strike made purchase in the clone's stomach. As it fell apart, Uryu leapt upward, switching targets in the air and firing the Ryotsu arrow straight at Zabuza's chest. In an instant the arrow struck the water where Zabuza had been an instant before. Zabuza himself had thrown himself backward and landed on the shoreline. You damn brats? Uryu disappeared in a puff of smoke before he landed, and Naruto and Kakashi's tails and ears slowly faded. Zabuza laughed. Looks like you're finished. Good, you're done for. Suddenly, Zabuza wasn't laughing anymore, as Kakashi's foot connected with his cheek. After that the fight didn't last long. Zabuza was battered and beaten by the time Kakashi knocked him into a tree with a water explosion technique. How can you see the future? Kakashi glared at Zabuza and drew a kunai. Yeah, you're going to die. Dark Snyder. You know, that reasoning is similar to that used by me when discussing why having their kid should be a pairing at all. Normally 12 to 13 would be considered young to have any kind of real relationship, but this is a different society, and living to be what we would consider old enough for a relationship, even a non-physical one, is not exactly guaranteed for a ninja, so young relationships would be common. That being said, the fact that such relationships would happen sometimes, if not often, is fairly inarguable, but that doesn't mean details will be included. I won't be including anything too explicit, though there may be plenty of references included. Karabanu. Yes, I realized afterward that this arc would probably be boring for the readers, hindsight's 2020. I'll try to mix it up more for the rest of it. The farther into the story things get, the more deviation from the manga, anime you all will see. Mostly, the only things I will change are things that are the result of the original change, at least at first. You'll all see what I mean by that later on. As I kind of mentioned before, the fact that they are ninja is the only reason I am considering a pairing for 12 to 13-year-old characters, excluding arranged marriages, which we really don't see in the show. Dating young is really the only way to be able to continue the family line when you might not live to see 18. Think of how many times the Konoha 11 have almost died, and none of them are older than about 16 even now. Sakura just hasn't played much of a part yet. They haven't interacted much, on screen, so to speak, since I removed Sasuke from the picture, so their new relationship hasn't really been revealed. Dragon Jack. Uryu was from fairly early in the Bleach storyline, while he still had the first version of his bow. His power is different because the body using it is different. He can focus the Ryotsu, which is not quite the same as in the Bleach universe. It will be explained. Better than Naruto because he's had practice, but he is still limited by what reserves Naruto's body has. Naruto has high body energy, but that's not what Uryu uses. As to whether he'll disappear, that would be telling, now wouldn't it? You'll see in this chapter. Lord Sia. I'll agree that his use of the clones isn't efficient, but it usually wasn't in the show or manga either. He'll improve. As to what Kakashi has taught them, Well, you don't know what they've learned. They've all gone through significant physical training, but as to teaching them techniques, none of the Chuunin senseis really go out of their way to teach new techniques to the teams. They just generally train them, the notable exceptions being Guy and Lee, the Gates, and Kakashi and Sasuke, the Chidori. Other than that, the only technique teaching done is usually by specific request from the student. Biyoshi. Yes, they all had tails and ears. The limited shape changing that Naruto can do is basically limited to human. It is the equivalent of his one-tailed state in the manga and anime, but the change is not required. It happens if Naruto isn't concentrating on retaining his normal form while drawing on the Kyuubi's reserves. As to the detail issue, I summarize because the stuff I'm leaving out has been done to death already. Most of it is straight out of the manga. If nothing changes, I don't need to go into detail on it, because it's not my story then. I will try in the future to include more detail in my own original sections though. Zabuza was battered and beaten by the time Kakashi knocked him into a tree with a water explosion technique. How can you see the future? Kakashi glared at Zabuza and drew a kunai. Yeah, you're going to die. That's when two long needles pierced Zabuza's neck and he slumped to the ground. You're right. He's dead. There was what appeared to be a young masked girl, likely no older than Sakura and Naruto were, standing on a tree branch off away from the rest of them. Her mask was mostly white, with a red swirl across the lower half. Naruto was reminded of Konoha's Anbu mosques, though there was no resemblance to any animals on the girl's mask. Kakashi approached Zabuza quickly and pressed a hand to his neck near the needles. No pulse, he's dead. He turned to the newcomer. That mask? You are a hidden mist hunter, Nen? He already knew the answer. Hi, I've been trying to kill Zabuza for a long time. The hunter Nen suddenly appeared by Zabuza's body. Your battle is over. I must dispose of the body. His body holds many secrets. Naruto watched as she lifted the body, gave a quick farewell, and disappeared from view. She's fast. Probably no older than me either. How can she be so powerful? Kakashi collapsed shortly after their encounter with the hunter Nin and was carried to Tazuna's home and laid in a bed to rest. I used the Sharingan too much, I won't be able to move much for about a week. Kakashi sighed. The three of you can spend that time training yourselves, I suppose, but first. Kakashi gave Naruto a look. Sakura, I'd like to speak with Naruto alone. Sakura frowned, but turned to leave, until Naruto put a hand on her shoulder. Wait, sensei, if it's about what I did in the battle, I think it's time I tell both of you. Are you sure about this, boy? He can't hide my existence forever, Fox. And the girl will eventually figure out about you anyway. Especially given he's already drawn on your power in front of her. Yes, I'm sure. Uryu is right, and Sakura deserves to know. She's improved a lot since she saw what Sasuke was really like. Naruto sighed. Sakura, Kakashi? I have a secret I've been hiding since I became a ninja. And so Naruto explained everything about his secrets. He told Sakura first about his heritage and his history, who his father was and what he had done the night of the Kyuubi's attack. He talked about what he had endured, and what had happened the night he stole the scroll. Sakura seemed stunned up to this point, but when Naruto reached the part of his story about his seal, Kakashi raised an eyebrow, and Sakura interrupted him. You tried to make your own summoning scroll. Naruto shook his head. I nearly succeeded. I suppose technically did succeed in a way. I created a seal array that was supposed to let me target and summon a person. Most ninja wouldn't have the chakra necessary to force a summoning without a contract, but the Kyuubi gives me unparalleled reserves. So when I tried the seal, I summoned someone, but they weren't quite what I intended. You see, the seal wasn't complete. One vital part of the array was drawn incorrectly, so I wasn't able to successfully summon a human. I only got the mind and soul. My mindscape is now inhabited by 3 minds. My own, the Kyuubi's, and Uryu Ishida. A clone appeared beside him and quickly took on the appearance of Uryu. I quickly learned that both the Kyuubi and Uryu could possess, so to speak, my clones, and my own body. So Kyuubi took a clone body and a human name. He looked to Kataki, who was sitting in the window, grinning. Sakura's eyes widened. You mean? Naruto nodded. Yes, Kataki Miteki is really the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Sakura bit her lip and looked at Kataki, obviously somewhat frightened. Naruto frowned. I told you already, Kyuubi wasn't at fault for the attack. Sakura looked down. I'm sorry, but it's hard to get over something like that so fast. My parents and family always told stories about the attack and all the deaths from it. I'll try to accept her anyway. I'm sorry. Naruto nodded. I understand. Naruto? Kakashi, who had been silent to this point, started. This seal you're working on could be dangerous. Another accident may not end so well. Kakashi-sensei. Every mission is dangerous for a ninja. I'll never improve if I'm not willing to take risks. I'm being careful in my attempts to reproduce the seal. Don't worry. Kakashi sighs. Very well, you can train without me for a few days. Be on your guard. Gato could send an even stronger ninja next time. Naruto, Sakura, Kataki, and Uryu had all found a clearing near the home to better prepare themselves. Sakura was sparring with Kataki, keeping up with the demon's blows with only a little trouble, though Kataki wasn't fighting her best. Naruto and Uryu had spread the original burnt scroll and another of their failed duplicates out beside each other. Naruto had a normal shadow clone carefully copying what could be seen of the original symbols onto a new scroll. Uryu traced his finger across a page of a book Naruto had bought a short time into his attempts. I think the problem has to be with the central part of the array, the symbol for the target. I see several major differences between what we tried on the second scroll with what I see in this book. There appear to be numerous ways to reproduce the meaning intended. You must have used a different one. He showed the clone a symbol from the book. We'll just have to try each of them until it works. The clone nodded and Naruto scowled. This would be the third attempt to reproduce his original result. The first two both with the same symbol from his book, and this, the third, with another symbol that he may have used on the original, the second of 4 he'd found that meant the same thing. The clone finished its work after some time, and handed the scroll to Naruto. He nodded and spread it out on the grass, biting his thumb and swiping his blood across it, before palming the center of the scroll and beginning to feed his chakra into the scroll. He had refined his control by this time, and the chakra he was using didn't explode outward like when Uryu had been summoned. Instead, the paper began to smoke, before vaporizing in an instant. Naruto began to drop into his mindscape as he saw Uryu and Kataki both disappear in puffs of smoke. His last sight outside of his mindscape was Sakura turning toward him. Naruto walked through the gate of the city inside his mind, and saw Uryu and Kyuubi standing there already when he arrived in front of the duplicate of his own apartment. So? Uryu nodded and motioned to the room behind them. Inside, Naruto found a boy, probably around Uryu's age, possibly a little older, unconscious on the bed. He was wearing blue pants, a red sleeveless shirt with a high neck, and a white cloth belt. His hair was in a long black ponytail. Kyuubi came in right behind Naruto. He didn't take the dimensional transfer well, apparently. He showed up like that, not completely unheard of for a summoning. He's not asleep, he's unconscious, he doesn't need sleep in here. The boy began to move. He put a hand to his forehead as he rolled over, and groaned. Gah, my head. He sat up carefully, opening his eyes. The first thing he saw was Naruto and Kyuubi, and Uryu a second after. Who are you? Naruto smirked. Namikaze Naruto, I'm a ninja of Konoha. You're inside my mindscape. One of my techniques summoned you from your dimension. These two are Kyuubi no Kitsune, and Uryu Ishida. Uryu was summoned from his world like you were. Kyuubi was sealed into my body when I was a baby. She's a demon, but not evil. The boy blinked several times. You're a ninja? I'm inside your head? Naruto nodded. In another dimension? Another nod? And she's a demon? Naruto nodded a third time. The boy paused. Sometimes I think my life is Kami's personal sitcom. He rubbed his temples for a moment. My name is Ranma, by the way, Ranma Saotome, of the Saotome School of Anything Goes Martial Arts. Naruto looked at him suddenly. A martial artist? Naruto smirked as Ranma nodded. Well then, you may be exactly what I need to learn to fight better. My taijutsu isn't the best, I'm going to have to improve if I am ever going to win. This time it was Ranma's turn to smirk. You want me to train you in martial arts? Alright, I could use a break from the insanity back in Narima. How long will you keep me here? Naruto frowned. Well, that's the problem, I don't know how to send either of you back yet. The technique I used wasn't perfected, but now that I figured out the seal, I'm one step closer to fixing that. I'll let you return as soon as I am able if I can. You can leave my mindscape in one of my shadow clones though. both for training and for, well, trying to live something resembling a normal life until you can return. I can't imagine being trapped inside my head all day would be enjoyable for you. Ranma looked at him. What's a shadow clone? Kyuubi was the one who answered this time. A construct made of chakra that is an exact duplicate of the user. Naruto's have the ability, which I granted him, to change their shape, though he's by and large limited to human forms. So, you will be able to shape the clone you control as you wish. Your body will still be limited to his strength and such, but your appearance will be your own. As Kyuubi said this, she changed several times, first to a duplicate of Naruto, then an old man, and finally an older, middle-aged version of her previous female form, before reverting to the shape of Kakashi. Ranma blinked. You can shapeshift? After a moment a wide grin broke across his face, and he leapt up into the air, an arm raised. Yes. When he came back down, all three of the other minds in the mindscape were staring at him. He didn't notice this, though, and instead continued his celebration. The others didn't understand why he was so excited about this, but anyone familiar with the character should understand his reasons. If not, see the end of the chapter. I knew I'd find a way to fix Pop's stupid mistake one day. I finally did it. Ranma seemed to be doing a happy dance, so to speak, and no one else spoke until he was through his rant. He turned finally, and went up to Kyuubi. When I return to my world, is there any way you can give me that ability the way you did Naruto? Kyuubi stared. No, not without access to your body. If I had your body here, or I was there with it, I could probably alter it the same way. As it is, no, there's nothing I can do. Ranma's face darkened for a moment, but then returned to a more neutral, still slightly excited, appearance. Kyuubi continued. Why are you so exuberant about this? Certainly it's a useful ability, but nothing quite as astounding as your reaction indicates. Ranma grinned. I've had a curse on me for quite some time, long story as to how it happened, but when I get splashed with cold water, I change into a girl. Hot water changes me back. Now it was Kyuubi and Uryu's turn to stare again. Naruto burst out laughing, and practically fell on the ground. Ranma glared at him. When he'd calmed down, Naruto walked up to Ranma and offered a hand. Well, tell you what, if I can ever master the original purpose of the technique, I'll summon your body back here, and Kyuubi can try to give you the same ability. Until then, you'll get to be free of the curse so long as you are here, and you can help me train. Deal? Ranma nodded and shook his hand. So, how do we do this? When Naruto opened his eyes, he was lying on the ground, and Sakura was standing over him. Naruto, you idiot, you had me worried. First that scroll disappeared and then you seemed to pass out. What happened? Naruto rubbed the back of the head. Note to self, lay down before entering the mindscape. Yeah, just make the clones already. Naruto sighed. I summoned someone else. He put his hands into a seal and 3 shadow clones appeared beside him. The first 2 changed to the forms of Uryu and Kakashi almost immediately. The third didn't change for several seconds more, as Ranma got his bearings in the new body, and then it too took on the appearance of its inhabitant, taking on the form of Ranma. Naruto nodded toward him. Sakura, this is Saotome Ranma. Ranma, this is Sakura Haruno. She's my teammate, another ninja, he's a martial artist. Ranma gave a slight bow as he was introduced, and then turned to Naruto. First things first, I want to fight you, see what you're capable of as it is. Just you and me, one-on-one. Naruto smirks. Well, you'll be at a disadvantage, because shadow clones disappear at even the slightest damage. A big enough bruise can kill them. So how about one of my clones fights you? We'll be on equal footing then. Ranma nodded. If I beat you though, then afterward you have to face me without a clone. Naruto nodded and made another clone, which took up a fighting stance. He'd trained extensively to improve himself physically, but he still wasn't on the level he wanted, and though his training with Kakashi had improved his skill in taijutsu, he was still woefully short. Time to see what kind of different skill and style could really make. The clones that were fighting had identical physical abilities. Ranma and the clone approached and started the fight after a short pause. Naruto watched his clone go for the first strike, aiming to kick Ranma in the side. Ranma stepped backward and struck out with one hand, knocking the clone's leg upward and throwing it off balance. He smirked as the clone spun and fell backward to the ground. Naruto frowned when the clone got back up from the heavy fall. Kakashi, Did your meddling do something to my clones? Kakashi laughed mentally. Not to the clones themselves, no. Your body is just growing tougher, so the clones are a little more hardy. They'll still disappear if they are damaged, but a punch or blunt strike won't damage them as easily anymore. How have you not noticed? I suppose that makes sense. I don't often spar or taijutsu fight with my clones, since it doesn't really help for them to train physically, so that's why I haven't noticed. Meanwhile, Ranma had gone on an offensive, a rain of punches aimed at Naruto's clone's chest. Damn it, I'm not fast enough physically to use the Amigorican properly against him. This body is strong and faster than most, but not up to my level. His blows, while still fast enough that a civilian would have been caught unaware, were falling prey to equally fast blocks, as Naruto's eyes were still fast enough to keep up. He's wasting energy though. If he deflected my blows he'd use less energy than stopping them cold, and he'd throw me off balance as well. Then Ranma smirked, and he suddenly changed targets, aiming for the face. Naruto's clone went to block, but then Ranma dropped, his legs flying out and sweeping the clone's feet out from under him. Ranma then leapt back up and delivered a blow to the clone's stomach, driving it into the ground and causing it to disappear in a puff of smoke. Ranma smirked. Naruto scowled. Apparently my taijutsu is even worse than I thought. You aren't even in a body you are used to and you beat my clone in seconds. Ranma chuckled. To be fair, when I was first cursed, I had to learn how to get used to a new body pretty fast. Naruto nodded and put his hand into a seal. Still want to fight me? Ranma's smirk returned. All out, I want to see what you can do, not just your martial arts. It was Naruto's turn to smirk this time. You asked for it, I won't hold back. Suddenly the clearing was filled with clones. Easily 1,000 copies of Naruto filled the area. Kakashi had by this time climbed a tree and was watching from a tree branch. Uryu was against a tree trunk nearly Kakashi. Sakura hadn't moved far, and when she found herself surrounded by clones, she began to move farther away from the martial artist and the original Naruto. She didn't want to get caught up in this. Ranma looked around. How the heck? He just managed before the first clones reached him. He ducked under a blow and then rose, essentially head-butting the clone in the stomach and causing it to flip backwards and crash into several others. All went up in a puff of smoke. Ranma didn't notice, as he was too busy blocking blows from the other clones as he stepped back. The numbers made it difficult for them to all get close to him, so he was only fighting a few at any given time, and he easily led them into a position where he was fighting only on one side, meaning even few reached him at once. Ranma was smirking as he focused his Kai and released a blast of energy at the clones. Literally hundreds exploded suddenly into smoke and Ranma had a few moments before any of those remaining could reach him. That the best you've got? You call yourself a ninja? You really do at this. The clones rushed forward as a mob, their anger rising. Ranma drew them in closer and began backstepping, bringing the clones into a spiral as they lunged forward and followed him. Their own auras mingled with his soul of ice, until finally, he completed the spiral, and with one final movement, unleashed chaos on the field. Hiryu Shoten Ha. The cyclone he formed filled most of the clearing, and even reached a few trees, ripping branches free and sending them flying. The clones were thrown around, smashing into each other and then thrown skyward. Naruto himself was almost sent airborne from the edge of the cyclone, and when the winds died down and the dust settled, only Naruto was left in the clearing. He slowly stood up, having been knocked down by the intense winds. A grin was on his face. You're good. He put one arm out straight in front of him and the other against his wrist. A swirl of red and blue formed in his palm, beginning to shape itself into a long curve in his extended hand. But not good enough. The other hand began to draw back, and at first the colored energy followed it, but a moment later, the entire mass of chakra suddenly dissipated. Damn it, he began to draw a kunai. The next thing he felt was Ranma's foot against his chin. He stumbled back, his hand just slow enough that his kunai was drawn a second too late for the blow. He shook his head and got his bearings just as Ranma reached him again, raining blows on him. He wasn't completely able to block, as he was still disoriented somewhat, but as the fists hit his chest and stomach, he eventually managed to stop one, and he took advantage of that, grabbing the fist hard and pulling, throwing Ranma off balance, even as Naruto spun himself around and drove his kunai into the back of Ranma's neck. He disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto stumbled to a tree and sat. Nice, you're no real martial artist yet, but you can take a beating, and those clones. I wouldn't have been able to pull that last move off if I hadn't worn you down with the clones. True, now let me take another clone, and I'll start teaching you a few things. Naruto's training with Ranma went on tirelessly the rest of the week. After the first day, Ranma and Naruto began to involve Kakashi and Sakura in the training as well. Uryu chose to sit it out, instead reading one of the seal books Kakashi had borrowed from the Konoha ninja library. It's quite frankly astounding that he ever made this work without any background knowledge of seals. I can't even figure out how this seal works, and I've been studying this since I arrived. I don't think he even realizes how insanely unlikely most of what he does is either. Naruto scowled as Ranma managed to remove his kunai from his hand and sent him flying in one move. He decided after the first day it was useless to use his techniques, however limited they were, against Ranma. The older boy didn't stand a chance against the flood of clones Naruto could produce, and it ultimately taught him nothing. He'd use an occasional replacement technique, but otherwise, he only used taijutsu. As he came down, he saw Sakura coming up behind Ranma with a kunai. He spun and swung his foot, knocking the kunai from her hand, but she ducked and came back up, delivering an uppercut to his chin. Her fist met nothing but air though as Ranma bent backward, placing his hands on the ground and delivering a kick with both feet, sending Sakura flying. Kakashi dropped out of the air above him, and after a powerful spinning kick, Ranma disappeared in a puff of smoke. You're definitely getting better. I don't think I can teach you anything else in the time we have left. You need to work on your technique more. Both Kakashi and Sakura have you beat in pure taijutsu skill. Sakura simply doesn't have the physical ability built up to match you. I know, I'll keep training, but you've taught me enough to help. We'll have to go guard Tazuna tomorrow, but at least now we'll have a chance. Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura were together in Tazuna's living room. Kakashi was explaining the situation. We'll need to leave at least a temporary guard to watch the village while we guard Tazuna. Gato could easily send men to take his family or others to stop the building. Naruto, can you leave clones behind here? Better, I can leave clones, and in an emergency, Uryu, Ranma, and Kakashi can possess them even if I'm on the bridge. Good, let's go then. We don't know who Gato will send after us, so be on your guard, both of you. And don't bother any commentary on Haku. Yes, Haku is a girl in this, but no, there will be no important subplots involving her, including romance. Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura were together in Tazuna's living room. Kakashi was explaining the situation. We'll need to leave at least a temporary guard to watch the village while we guard Tazuna. Gato could easily send men to take his family or others to stop the building. Naruto, can you leave clones behind here? Better, I can leave clones, and in an emergency, Uryu, Ranma, and Kakashi can possess them even if I'm on the bridge. Good, let's go then. We don't know who Gato will send after us, so be on your guard, both of you. The scene of the bridge was an eerie one. As the group of 3 ninja, a demon, a martial artist, and a bridge builder, walked onto the cold stone walkway that made up one side of the bridge, there was no one in sight. There was a mist settled over the scene, and even Kakashi found he couldn't see more than a dozen yards in front of him. The copy ninja of Konoha stopped and nodded to the others. Something's up, this mist isn't natural. Tazuna, where are your workers? They should be here. I don't. His explanation was interrupted by a chuckle and then a voice from inside the mist. The workers are alive, mostly. I doubt we will say the same for you in a moment. This vocal warning echoed from the fog only a split second before Zabuza Momochi seemed to materialize out of nowhere and charge Kakashi. From the opposite direction the voice had come from. Kakashi leapt over the massive sword that swung at his midsection, even as the rest jumped into action. Besides the Chuunin, Ranma reacted most quickly, as he'd actually been behind Zabuza when he struck. A rain of fists would have hammered Zabuza, but Ranma found the man's sword had intercepted him, and his first blow met the flat of the steel. His second never had time to hit at all. Sakura leapt backward, dragging Tazuma with her, even as Naruto spun toward the obvious threat. However, Kakashi had already released a flurry of kunai just as Ranma attacked, and one caught the back of Zabuza's neck, before he collapsed into a puddle of water. Damn, Naruto swore, scanning the bridge. Where? I'm impressed. The mist cleared slightly in the direction of the end of the bridge, and the group of ninjas caught their first sight of the enemy, Two figures. One tall, one shorter, and obviously younger. It wasn't until the mist cleared more that they were sure exactly who they were seeing. The taller figure had obviously been Zabuza, but the smaller figure was one only Kakashi and Katachi had expected. The so-called hunter Nin that had picked up Zabuza's body. No wonder the brat didn't destroy the body in front of us. She was in league with him. The mask is merely a disguise. Naruto nodded, but didn't speak. He slid his feet into a fighting stance as Ranma mirrored the movement opposite him. Katachi took a different stance between them. Kakashi stood beside Sakura and Tazuna, and was reaching for his headband. There are more of you this time. Zabuza didn't seem to be in any hurry to fight. Where did you pick up help, I wonder? Naruto growled and shifted his weight. You're not getting to Tazuna. You may as well go tell Gato to give up now. Naruto scowled and began to draw his arm back, forming his now functional bow and arrow from the energy that gathered. Zabuza merely laughs. As the arrow streaks through the air, the taller enemy Nin is suddenly gone. He reappears swinging his massive blade at Tazuna, but Kakashi catches the older man and pulls him away from the sharp edge, which sticks shallowly into the stone of the bridge. Naruto was reacting before Zabuza was able to backtrack, and so two battles began. Zabuza ducked under a kick from the blonde-haired boy, and began to backtrack toward the edge of the bridge. The girl had moved to attack Ranma and Katachi, even as Uryu and Sakura took up positions on either side of Tazuna. Naruto had found that Zabuza, though physically faster than him still, had slowed down since their last fight. Has he not fully recovered? Why would he face us if he was still injured? He can't be that overconfident, especially since we beat him before. Still though, the swordsman proved more than a challenge for Naruto to keep up with, even with his recent training. Nothing Naruto did seemed to faze the missing Nin. But that didn't mean the fight was going badly. Kakashi proved to be a match for the swordsman, and Naruto's mere presence, even as a distraction, was enough to turn the tide. Naruto loosed an arrow at Zabuza, who dodged almost directly into a kunai strike from Kakashi, though he barely evaded. Then Zabuza would counter by striking at Naruto with his sword, only for Naruto to disappear in a puff of smoke and stab him in the back, where he would splash down into a puddle. This went on for some time, until Naruto caught sight of some strange formation of ice in the other battle. He was worried at first, but then one of the mirrors, for that's what they were, exploded in a flash of red. Katachi had fired an arrow into it. They had the situation under control. Naruto was finally allowed a moment to pause when Zabuza was blasted into the edge of the bridge, hard. Kakashi had reproduced a smaller version of his attack that defeated Zabuza before, and when the water cleared, he had a kunai at the mist ninja's throat. How disappointing, you're getting your ass kicked. A rather short man was now standing at the end of the bridge, smirking at the ninja group. Behind him was a massive collection of thugs. Zabuza looked at the man with recognition. Gato, why are you here? The short, rather ugly man smirked. The plan has changed. Well, actually, I planned to do this all along. Zabuza, I'm going to have you killed here. I never planned on paying you. It's so easy to have you missing ninja taken care of after the job, when they are weak. And then it costs me nothing. Zabuza snarled at the man. Kakashi, this fight is over. I have no more reason to fight you. Kakashi paused a moment, then nodded. You're right. He withdrew the kunai from the battered and weakened mist ninja's neck. Zabuza was away in a flash, his sword back in his hand, and appeared beside Gato. One problem, I'm not weak. With that one comment, Zabuza's blade separated Gato's body at the waist. Senbon rained down on the thugs as Haku came out of nowhere. Many of the thugs didn't last more than a few seconds. The rest fled. Zabuza only followed them to the edge of the bridge before he stopped. He stood still for a few moments as Haku caught up. He stabbed the end of his blade into the ground and leaned against it for a moment. You did good, Haku. Kakashi slowly approached the two. As he did, Haku spun around, Senbon between each of her fingers. You won't hurt Zabuza-sama. Kakashi drew a kunai, but didn't react further, and a moment later, Zabuza collapsed face first on the ground. Zabuza-sama. Haku spun around and flipped his body onto its back, then began examining him for wounds. Kakashi sighed. The young girl seemed frantic as she examined him. He's fine. He's suffering from chakra exhaustion. If Tazuna can forgive his attempts, We can bring him back to the village for you to treat him. Haku hesitated. You would help us? But we tried to kill you. Naruto and the others were there by this time, and Kakashi spoke up again. You were doing your job, just as we were. We're ninja, it's inevitable that we fight. Besides which, I don't kill the helpless when I can avoid it. Kakashi shot Tazuna a look, and after a moment, the old man, hesitant, nodded his assent. For the first time since the fight began, Naruto spoke again. Two of Gato's goons tried to attack Tazuna's family while we were here. My clones took care of them. We should probably head back. Those two were out of the loop, there could be more who don't know their boss is dead yet. Kakashi nodded and Haku picked up Zabuza's body. Naruto grabbed the sword and carried it with them. He was astounded how heavy the massive blade was. He'd have to look into sword training. A blade like this could devastate an enemy. Zabuza and Haku stayed in an empty room in the village. Just in case, two of the ninja were with them at all times, except at night, when two of Naruto's clones kept watch. Another two at any given time were with Tazuna, watching to ensure his safety as he finished the bridge. Haku was allowed to come and go, mostly because Team 7 had realized she would never abandon Zabuza there, even if she had reason to betray them, and as such gathered materials to tend her own and Zabuza's wounds. Zabuza woke up about 1 week later. His first reaction seemed to be one of paranoia until he saw Haku. He calmed down quickly. Why am I still alive? He could plainly see Naruto and Sakura standing by the doorway behind Haku. Zabuza-sama, we saw no need to kill you. Naruto interrupted. You did what you needed to in order to get paid. That's how most of the ninja world works. You didn't come after us when you no longer had a reason, that was enough to show you aren't quite the demon you seem. Zabuza smirked. Kid, I've killed for less than that. He slowly sat straight up. Suggesting the demon of the bloody mist is going soft? You got some nerve. Naruto chuckled. I don't have much respect for authority either. It's a nasty combination for them. Zabuza let another smirk cross his face. You've got potential, kid. If you ever decide to go off on your own, look me up. There's a knock at the door. Ranma and Kataki enter after a moment's pause. Ranma is first to speak. Oh, he's finally awake, huh? Ranma smirked as he turned to. So you're the one who gave us so much trouble. What's your deal anyway? Wandering around the wilderness with an underage girl? You some kind of pervert? In the next instant, three things happened almost at once. Haku's face turned a brilliant shade of red, and she made a noise that could most closely be described as, eep. The second was Zabuza launching himself through the air, no weapons available, but his hands flashing through various seals. The third happened immediately afterward. Kataki and Naruto, acting in sync, slammed Zabuza back down to the floor. Stop, Naruto shouted. Ranma, don't antagonize the missing nin. He sighs and after a moment, releases Zabuza. Calm down. Don't want to have to put you into critical condition again. Zabuza stops his attack almost immediately after it began, but that short burst of anger was enough to send Ranma scurrying backwards. So long living in Narima had honed his reflexes, if not so much as common sense. Geez, relax. It was a joke. Zabuza muttered something no one could quite understand under his breath, then slowly stood up. Unless you plan on holding me here, I'm leaving. Where's my sword? Naruto nodded toward the door. Just outside. You're free to go if you like. Zabuza nods and walks toward the door. Haku follows him. Zabuza pauses for a moment on the way out. I meant what I said, kid. If you ever decide to leave that village, look me up. He shoots Ranma a look. Just, don't bring him. With that final word, Zabuza slipped through the doorway and out of sight. What Naruto attempted to do was unique among techniques shown in the anime or manga. Iruka was a voluntary, arranged summoning prepared beforehand, not a spontaneous forced summoning of another human. The ramifications would be huge, especially for a hunter-nin or abduction missions. Sasuke's ultimate fate is not entirely decided yet. Thanks all of you for your reviews. Unless you plan on holding me here, I'm leaving. Where's my sword? Naruto nodded toward the door. Just outside. You're free to go if you like. Zabuza nods and walks toward the door. Haku follows him. Zabuza pauses for a moment on the way out. I meant what I said, kid. If you ever decide to leave that village, look me up. He shoots Ranma a look. Just, don't bring him. With that final word, Zabuza slipped through the doorway and out of sight. You realize that this must remain absolutely secret outside your team. Tell no one besides myself about this. If anyone discovers the existence of this technique, have them brought directly to me at first opportunity. Kakashi and Team 7 were standing across the room from the third Hokage, having returned not long before from their mission in the Wave Country. Kakashi had explained the mission status, before allowing Naruto to explain his own technique. The Hokage continued, I will change the records to have your team down as a special genin team. The story will be that your team consists partially of probationary genin, frequent appearances and disappearances will be easily explained. You are not to allow anyone without knowledge of this technique to see your clones change form. I am classifying this, and any further development, as an S-class secret technique. Do you understand? Naruto nodded. Yes, Oji-san. A slight grin crossed his face. If that's it, I'm going to ask you all to leave. I need to speak with Kakashi. Kataki and Naruto both smirked before disappearing into the hallway. Sakura followed them out at a calm walking speed. The Hokage looked Kakashi in the eye. If he continues at this rate, he'll surpass you before the year is through. A far cry from the hopeless trickster he was before. Kakashi gave the same strange smile only he could give. I wouldn't say that, necessarily. If anything, the pranks are worse now. Kataki's a natural at causing chaos. They come less often now, but no one ever sees them coming. The Hokage fought a shiver at the mention of the two working together on pranks. Yes. Well, that's not the issue I needed to discuss with you. You know that the Chuunin exams are approaching again, and this time we will be hosting. Will your team be ready in time? Kakashi looked surprised. It's virtually unheard for a team to participate in the exams this soon. Naruto could certainly handle the exams, and Kataki is experienced enough that even I can't teach her much. Sakura though, she's come a long way from her obsession with the Uchiha boy, and I've pushed her hard in improving herself physically, but she's got effectively no ninjutsu available to her yet. She can use the academy basics, but that's about all. I don't believe she'll be ready to participate. The Hokage sighs. I expected as much. Very well. I want you to do your best to have them ready for the exams. If you judge they aren't, I won't push the issue. Kakashi nods. Certainly Hokage-sama. Several weeks had passed, and Naruto ran through the streets of Konoha frantically. Where is he? We're running out of time. My area is clear. Nothing here. Same. Haven't seen anything yet. No sign of the target. Surrounding Naruto in varying directions were clones, numerous shadow clones spreading across the village. Uryu, Ranma, and Kataki were among them, searching everywhere they could for their target. Suddenly though, Naruto felt a rush of information as one of his clones dispelled. A kunai had clipped its neck. Naruto now knew where he needed to go. The East Training Grounds, by the gate. He's there. Hundreds of clones spreading across the village began to converge on that one spot, along with the 4 Konoha genin. There he is. One of the clones spotted the target, standing in the shadows outside the training ground, almost in the trees. The clones moved to surround the figure, about the time the 4 genin arrived. They were indistinguishable from the normal clones. Naruto's clones launched themselves a dozen at a time toward the man, who moved faster than they could even follow, his kunai glinting in the dim light as it ended the dozens faster than they could even reach him. A second later the man leapt upward, and an explosion took out the clones nearest the center, including Ranma. Naruto smirked and drew back his arm along his other, the now commonly seen spirit bow materializing in his hand. He lined up a shot at the cloaked man, and then moved suddenly and fired directly into the air. The arrow exploded into a brilliant light show, almost like fireworks. He continued as if nothing had happened. His clones disappeared in puffs of smoke, save only 3, which reshaped themselves into Uryu, Kataki, and Ranma. The 4 moved to surround the man, but before any could attack, a 6th person appeared in the clearing. As she landed beside Naruto, Sakura's eyes burned with a fire previously only seen when she was near her idol, but now reserved for battle. You started without me. Naruto shrugged. You weren't here. I signaled you, didn't I? The conversation ended then, and the two went back to the fight in front of them. Naruto charged the hooded and cloaked intruder, 2 kunai drawn, and then flipped through the air over the man's head, slashing more as a distraction than anything. He landed and kicked backwards, landing just short of the tree line. Uryu had moved around to his left slightly, and Sakura slightly to the right. In sync, Naruto and Uryu raised their arms and formed their bows, one a mismatch of bright blue and brilliant red, the other a more pale blue. Anyone who'd seen them fight would have come to expect this. What was not expected, however, was when Sakura raised her arm and did the same, but her bow was nearly twice the size of the two boys. Spirit fusion. Divine bow. Sakura's bow was the palest pink, almost, but not quite white. A moment after the two boys released their arrows, and the man leapt up and over them, she released her own, which shattered into 100 pieces and pummeled the man's body. He disappeared in a puff of smoke an instant later. Good work, all of you. Kakashi was standing behind Naruto, who hadn't even noticed his approach. What was that? Naruto was looking at Sakura with shock. Kakashi was actually the one to respond. Every day when you, Kakashi, and Uryu work on the seals for the summoning, Sakura has been training with me, you know that. What you didn't know was what she's been working on. I taught her what little I know about spirit energy, and she more or less figured out how to focus it on her own, but with my help, she's learned to take it a step further, and combine it with the mind and body energy already present in her normal chakra. Sakura interrupted. I can use this spirit chakra far more readily than normal chakra, since it's linked more closely to myself. I decided to copy the appearance of the bow because an opponent would expect a straight shot. I can do that too, but the shattering is more effective. Kakashi coughed. Yes. Well, regardless, you all did well, both in the search and the fight against the clone. So, anyway, I've nominated the three of you for the Chuunin exams. Here are your applications. He handed each a slip of paper. Sakura looked shocked. Are you serious, sensei? The Chuunin exams? Aren't they supposed to be extremely dangerous? This is just a nomination. Whether you participate or not is up to you. If you wish to take it, sign that paper and turn it in to room 301 by 4 p.m. tomorrow. That is all. Kakashi disappeared in a shunshin, leaving an astonished Team 7 to discuss what had just happened. Naruto and Kakashi arrived at room 301 early the next day to see two older ninja apparently blocking the door, in front of them a throng of mostly younger genin. Do you sense it too? Yes, they've set up an illusion here. Want me to take care of them this time? I believe they are trying to the ranks. It's probably a test. Leave them be. If they can't figure this out, they shouldn't be here to begin with. Naruto turned around to walk to the next level just as Sakura walked up. She looked at Naruto walking away, then back at the group of genin, before smiling and turning around to follow her teammates. A few others from the throng silently slipped away from the crowd, a few at a time, until eventually they were all gone, either to return to their homes in premature defeat, or to slip upstairs to find the real first test. Team 7 entered room 301 to see it filled with countless other students already. Apparently the trick downstairs hadn't fooled as many as it had seemed. Naruto baka. A shrill voice broke over the din, and a moment later an open palm connected with Naruto's left cheek. Kakashi blinked and then burst out laughing as Naruto fell back on his ass. What the hell? Naruto looked up at the blonde female who had slapped him with more curiosity than anger. She looks familiar. Where have I seen her before? I don't know, kid. Sakura looked puzzled. Ino-chan? Naruto blinked. Oh, that's where I know her from. That's Yamanaka Ino, she's from my class at the academy. Ino rounded on Sakura next. You. How can you be hanging out with that freak after what he did to Sasuke-kun? Sasuke-kun should be here instead of him. The Hokage won't even let him rejoin the academy. It's all that monster's fault. Sakura lowered her head. Ino, it's not, you haven't seen what I have, Sasuke, he totally lost it. He lost it and tried to attack Naruto, just because, he tried to get us to work together. If not for Naruto, neither me or Sasuke would have passed Kakashi-sensei's exam. Naruto didn't do anything but talk to him. I was mad at first but I see I was wrong now. Ino was staring open-mouthed at Sakura, as if she'd grown a second head. Has that freak brainwashed you or what? He's not worth. Ino stopped suddenly as Sakura's hand connected with her cheek. Sasuke's not worth it, Ino. Get over him. Stop taking things out on Naruto. None of this is his fault. Ino seethed for a moment, then stormed away. Two guys walked up as Ino was storming off, one munching a bag of chips, the other with his hands in his pockets. What was that about? The thinner of the two looked at Naruto, who was back on his feet by this time, and Sakura with a look of part indifference, part curiosity. Nara Shikamaru and Akamichi Choji, 2 more students from my academy class. They made it here too? She had an issue with something she thought I was responsible for. Don't worry about it, Shikamaru just shrugged. Choji looked like he was about to say something, but was interrupted by another outburst from the crowd. Found you. Another team walked up, including the one who had shouted, a rather animalistic-looked boy with a small dog sitting on top of his head. Well, looks like everyone is here. Inazuka Kiba, another rookie genin. The second boy in the group was silent, and merely nodded at them. His face was almost completely covered by a high collar and a pair of sunglasses. Aburame Shino doesn't talk much. Never really talked to me at all. The third teammate was a girl who was rather quiet, with dark purplish-colored hair and white eyes. Hello. And Hyuga Hinata? Did everyone make it to these exams? I thought they were supposed to be selective about who got in. Shikamaru voiced what Naruto had been thinking. Geez, you guys too? All 9 of the rookie genin taking the exams. I wonder how far we'll get, Kiba wondered aloud. Rather loudly I might add. Hey you guys, you should probably be a bit more quiet. Another Konoha genin approached, though no one recognized him. You guys are rookies, right? Screaming like schoolgirls, geez. This isn't a picnic. He pushed his glasses up against his eyes. Ah well, can't really blame you, I was the same way my first time. I'm Kabuto by the way. Sakura smiled. This is your second time here? My 7th actually, Alright. Quiet down all you worthless runts. In a puff of smoke a group of instructors appeared at the front of the room. The one in the front spoke up. Thanks for waiting. I'm Morino Ibiki, your examiner for the first test of the Chuunin exams. Anyone who disobeys me will be failed immediately. Ibiki went on about the rules of the test for some time, until finally his small army began handing out papers. Naruto smirked as he was pointed to a seat near the center of the room. And next to Hyuga Hinata. She'll easily be able to read the others' papers without notice. I'm set in this. I'll feed Kataki the answers too, but what about Sakura? Yes, that will work. Naruto formed a few signs under the table and silently summoned a clone, just out of sight of the other proctors, and it quickly takes on a similar appearance to the others. As Naruto stealthily copies answers from Hinata's paper, he begins preparing for the next step in his plan. He reaches his arms up in the air, yawns loudly, and twists his body as if stretching. He pauses slightly longer than necessary on one turn, catches Sakura's eye behind him, and mouths, "Ask to leave." To her, before returning to his copying. He hears nothing but normal testing sounds until Ibiki speaks. You there, in the back, what do you want? He hears Sakura's voice. Sir, I need to use the restroom. Fine, have one of the examiners take you, and leave your test with me. Naruto smirks as Sakura leaves the room with his female-bodied clone. Once they were well out of range of listeners, Naruto begins feeding questions and answers back and forth to Sakura through his mental link to the possessed clone, possessed by Ranma in this case, but that's not really relevant. It wasn't long after Sakura's return that Team 7 had filled out all of their respective tests completely. It was about 15 minutes after that the examiner stopped them again. Okay, we will now start the 10th question. Many in the room looked nervous. A few smirked. The rest seemed fairly indifferent. Before we get to it, I'd like to go over the added rules for this question. These are the rules. Ibiki was smirking as he continued. For this question, you must decide if you will take it or not. A girl Naruto didn't recognize shouted from toward the back. Choose? What happens if we choose not to? If you choose not to, your points will be reduced to 0. You fail, along with your teammates. Other mumblings and shouts rose up. What? Well then of course we'd choose to take it. Now, the other rule, if you choose to take it, and answer incorrectly, you will lose the right to ever participate in the Chuunin exams again. Angry murmurs and outcries broke the silence. You guys are unlucky. This year it's my rules. But I'm giving you a way out. Those that aren't confident can quit and try again next year. Now, those that do not wish to take it, raise your hand. The room became deathly silent. What is he thinking putting that kind of importance on a single question? I'm confident in my ability, and Sakura is brilliant, but what about everyone else? Last chance to quit. Hands had been raising slowly over this period, but finally, no more went up. Ibiki smirked once more. Good decisions. Now, to everyone still remaining, I congratulate you on passing the first test. What, we already pass? What about the 10th question? Sakura looked shocked. There was none, or I suppose you could say the choice was the 10th question. So the first 9 questions were pointless? The same unknown girl shouted from the back. The first 9 questions served their intended purpose, to test your information gathering ability. Ibiki continued explaining what most of those left had already figured out, that the test was designed to make them cheat, and that the 10th question was also to test their ability to make tough decisions. Finally, the speech was broken up by another person appearing in a flurry of movement through the window. A series of kunai flew outward, pinning a sign up behind her as she made her grand entrance. Both the sign and herself introduced her as the second test examiner, Mitarashi Anko. Now follow me. She looked around, then at Ibiki. You left this many? Bah, oh well, I'll at least cut them in half in the second test. Her maniacal grin gave a few of the testees doubts about whether her statement was in fact literal.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.